Years ago. What started it was a mob of miscreants, about 500-600 of them, pelting stones from rooftops, setting on fire a cyber police station, attacking a religious procession carried out by the Bajrang Dal. In response, there was retaliatory violence in different parts of southern Haryana, Gurugram, Sona, Palwal. But a basic question begs to be asked: where is the state? Where is the police, the law and order machinery? Today, the Chief Minister held a press conference and said over 40 FIRs have been registered, over 100 people have been nabbed. But the basic question begs to be asked: how did they allow this violence to flare up in the first place?
Rammed this bus into the wall, the boundary wall of the police station. They went inside, and then all the vandalism took place.
Currently, at the place at which I am reporting from, it's in Nuh, and this was one of the epicenter of the violence that broke out yesterday.
मेरी जनता से अपील भी है कि वो लोग शांति बनाए रखें और चूँकि आपसी तनाव में भाईचारा बिगड़ता है, भाईचारा बना करके रखने से ही अपने प्रदेश की खुशहाली है।
जो जनगणना में हुआ बड़ा दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है और आइंदा इस तरह से गड़बड़ी ना हो, उसके लिए भारत सरकार और हरियाणा सरकार पूरे तौर के ऊपर प्रत्यनशील है।
तीर्थ यात्री शांतिपूर्ण थे, उन पर हमला किया गया। हमला 700-800 लोगों ने किया, जिनके पास में अवैध बंदूकें, बम, लाठी और पत्थर थे। ये सरासर चुनौती थी।
बड़ी प्रशासनिक चूक हुई है, प्रशासनिक विफलता रही है। जो पुलिस कर्मियों को तैनात करना चाहिए था, प्रशासन को तैनात करना चाहिए था, अगर कोई प्रोसेशन निकल रहा था इस तरीके से, और अगर कहीं चूक रही है तो सरकार को सोचना पड़ेगा।
हरियाणा सरकार उस यात्रा को सुरक्षा देने में पूरे तौर से विफल रही है।
All right, we're getting breaking news right at the top of the show. In a CNN News 18 exclusive, we have accessed the FIR registered by the police in Nuh. This was the initial violence that happened a couple of days ago at a Bajrang Dal rally. The FIR says there was a pre-planned conspiracy. As per the FIR, a mob of about 600 vandals, antisocial elements as the FIR describes them, attacked the yatris as they were shouting slogans. They also attacked a police team that was present at the Adbar Chowk in Nuh. They started pelting stones at the chowk from rooftops as well as from nearby hills. Now, the FIR calls it a well-planned conspiracy, and as per the statement of a police officer present at the scene of these clashes, the FIR also says that the mob came in from the Tauru village and was chanting slogans. Anvit has more details on this. Anvit, so the FIR says that this entire thing was pre-planned, it was a conspiracy, and that it was a mob of 600 to 700 people who initially started this violence in response to provocative slogans. Walk us through what other details are there in this FIR on the Nuh violence.
Yeah, Zaka, see why it is being looked upon as a conspiracy. There are certain angles to it when we have spoken to senior officials who are investigating the entire matter, and they have said that 4 to 5 pointers that indicate that this could be a large conspiracy are that one, the mob that was charging residential places and was, as vandalism and arson were unfolding in the area. The police officers who are on ground, they have reported in their detailed report that they have submitted to senior officials. They have said that the mob was charging in a very organized manner. Their movement was very organized, which the police believes that there could be some main orchestrators at whose behest this mob was being mobilized. The other point, important point here is that the availability of weapons to these mobsters, because while the procession being taken out and when the procession was being intercepted, Both the parties were brandishing pistols, swords. This has been alleged by the witnesses and as well as by the police. So police are saying that they are looking into the possibilities of availability of weapon to these persons and what was the source of these weapons. This again points to a larger conspiracy. After that, a video of Monu Manesar had also surfaced before the procession where he had been asking his supporters to join the procession in large numbers. So police are also finding out if they were, because Monu Manesar is a person who has a criminal background, police are finding out if there are more persons with criminal background to both the parties who had clashed, and they're finding out if the mobsters, if the main persons who were leading the mob, they are being identified and their links with these people who had criminal backgrounds will also be verified.
Anvit, so one question that stands out is, okay, if this is indeed true, that this was a well-planned conspiracy, a mob of 600 antisocial elements, as the FIR describes it, was allowed to gather there, they threw stones from rooftops, they had weapons, they had guns, swords, etc. All of it is described in great detail in the FIR. One question then begs to be asked is, how were they allowed to gather there in the first place? Did the state police not have any intelligence about them? Because if they didn't, then that was a clear intelligence failure. And if they did have the intel that a group of 600 antisocial elements with deadly weapons were grouping there in Nuh, and they did nothing about it, because multiple eyewitness accounts have said this, including to you, that the police bandobast on that day was very thin. So either they had no clue or they were caught napping.
Yeah, very true. And the police needs to come out on this with more clarity, because they had been maintaining a middle stand on this. You know, when we questioned earlier the superintendent of police and the deputy commissioner in the afternoon, they said that they had information of this procession because they had held meetings with peacekeeping committees to ensure that this march completes peacefully. But there is also an intel failure, because despite alert that was sent from the intelligence branch to local police, the police force failed to think that there could be such violence, and they failed to assess the situation correctly. And that is one reason why the police has also agreed to the fact that there were only 800, roughly about 800 police personnel on ground, on duty on that day when the procession was being taken out, and then it was intercepted and violence broke. However, the number of procession people participating in the procession and those who had resorted to violence was much, much larger and multifolds than the number of police. So this clearly charts out that how police has failed in this entire in containing this entire violence, and how it was also that the police had information but not many required measures were not taken timely.
All right, Anvit, we'll leave it at that. Clearly, the police also have a lot of questions that they need to answer, but the basic one that needs to be asked is, how was a mob of 600 to 700 antisocial elements, how were they allowed to gather there, and how were they able to procure weapons in such large numbers and attack a procession for which permission was given? Admittedly, there were some provocative slogans that were raised in that procession, but the violence seemed to have started from one side, and it was organized, and the FIR says it was pre-planned. But the man in the hot seat is the Home Minister of Haryana. Anil Vij is now joining us. Vij साहब, बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. अभी हम FIR की कॉपी भी हमारे दर्शकों के साथ शेयर कर रहे थे. इसमें तो साफ तौर पे लिखा है कि ये ऑर्गेनाइज कंस्पिरेसी थी. नूह में जो ये हिंसा जो शुरू हुआ, अब लगता है कि हरियाणा के जो बाकी जगह है वहां पे भी ये हिंसा फैल रही है. 6 लोग मर गए हैं. आप कह रहे हैं कि 100 से ऊपर लोगों को आपने गिरफ्तार कर दी, राउंड अप कर दी, 40 से ज्यादा FIRs भी दर्ज किया. लेकिन ये बताइए, 3 दिन से और अलग अलग जगहों पे हिंसा फैल रही है, क्या ये पुलिस और प्रशासन की तरफ से विफलता नहीं है? हम क्यों ये माने कि आप लोगों ने ठीक किया या आप लोगों ने सही काम किया? ये तो पूरी तरह से आप फेल हो गए.
देखिए, ये प्राइमरी काम नहीं है. प्राइमरी काम है सारे प्रदेश में शांति को बहाल करना, लॉ एंड ऑर्डर को मेंटेन करना, और वो हम कर रहे हैं. हमने 30 कंपनियां मेवात में डाली हैं, नूह में डाली हैं, हरियाणा की. 20 कंपनियां जो हमें केंद्र से मिली हमने वो वहां पर डाली। नूह में 8 थाने हैं, हमने 8 जोन्स में उनको बांटा है और हर जोन में एक आईपीएस को हमने ड्यूटी लगाई है। पूरी तरह से जो साक्ष्य मिल रहे हैं सीसीटीवी से या अन्य संसाधनों से, जो मिल रहे हैं, जो जिनकी इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, उनको हम पकड़ रहे हैं। 41 एफआईआर कल रात तक दर्ज हो चुकी थी और 116 लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया जा चुका था। 90 के करीब हमने डिटेन कर रखे हैं। हम जांच कर रहे हैं कि उनकी संलिप्तता इसमें है या नहीं है। अगर संलिप्तता होगी तो उनको भी गिरफ्तार करेंगे। माई प्राइमरी जॉब इज टू मेंटेन पीस। पहला काम मेरा ये है कि वहां पर पीस बहाल की जाए, नहीं लोगों में विश्वास पैदा किया जाए कि पुलिस पूरी तरह से आपके साथ है। आप निर्भीक होकर, निर्भय होकर आप अपनी दिनचर्या करें, आप अपने
नहीं विद साहब, लेकिन ये बताइए, पहली चीज, ये नूह की जो स्थिति थी, इस तरह इतना मतलब बुरी तरह इसको कैसे बिगड़ने दिया आपके पुलिस और प्रशासन ने? दूसरी चीज, हमारे पास ये भी जानकारी है कि, और एफआईआर में भी ये लिखा है कि 500 से 600 लोग एंटी सोशल एलिमेंट्स वहां इकट्ठे हुए। उनके पास पत्थर थे, उनके पास लाठी थे, पिस्तौल, स्वॉर्ड्स, सब चीज थे उनके पास। ये इतनी भारी संख्या में इतने लोगों को आपने वहां कैसे इकट्ठा होने अलाउ किया? क्या हम ये ना माने कि ये पुलिस की तरफ से इंटेलिजेंस फेलियर थी और पुलिस की तरफ से लॉ एंड ऑर्डर के भी फेलियर थी कि इतने भारी संख्या में लोग वहां इकट्ठा हो गए?
नहीं, देखिए ऐसा है, बिना तथ्यों की जानकारी के मैं नहीं कह सकता। मैं इसकी जांच कराऊंगा कि क्या किसी के पास इनपुट था, अगर था तो उसने किसको बताया, किस लेवल के अधिकारी को बताया, किस लेवल की घटना होने वाली थी, क्या वहां तक बताया या नहीं बताया। तो हम करेंगे ना जी, उसके बाद करेंगे ना जी, इस बात को करेंगे जांच। में बख्शता तो किसी को हूं नहीं, आप सब जानते हो, मैं किसी को नहीं बख्शूंगा अगर किसी ने कोताही बरती है। लेकिन अभी किसी नतीजे पर पहुंचना ठीक नहीं है। हाँ, एक बात जरूर लगती है कि किसी ने मास्टरमाइंड किया है, क्योंकि साइमल्टेनियसली कई स्पॉट के ऊपर हिंसा होना ऐसा कभी दंगों में हुआ नहीं करता जब तक कि उसकी प्लानिंग ना की गई हो। ऐसे नहीं हो सकता कि मैंने गुड़गांव से पुलिस भेजी और बॉर्डर पर ही उन्होंने गोलियां चला दी। इसका मतलब किसी को पता था कि ये जलेगा और बाहर से फोर्स नहीं आने देंगे। ये सारी बातों की हम जानकारी करेंगे। अगर किसी ने मास्टरमाइंड भी किया है, उसकी भी तथ्यों सहित। लोग बहुत कुछ कह रहे हैं, कई लोगों का नाम ले रहे हैं, लेकिन मैं किसी की नहीं मानता। मैं तो वो बात को मानूंगा जो तथ्यों सहित मेरे सामने आएगी।
नहीं, इसके तो ये बताइए विद साहब, ये जो हिंसा हमने देखी नूह में, उसके बाद उसके प्रतिक्रिया में या उसके रिएक्शन में जो गुड़गांव में फैला गया, जो बादशाहपुर में हमने देखा, पलवल, काफी सारे जगहों में हरियाणा में ये हिंसा फैल गई। गुड़गांव तो आपको पता ही है कि आईटी का सेंटर है, एक तरीके से देखेंगे तो पूरे नॉर्थ इंडिया का सबसे बड़ा आईटी सिटी माना जाता है। तो इस तरीके के जो वायलेंस हो रहा है, इस तरीके की जो हिंसा हो रही है, वहां पे कंपनियों को बोला जा रहा है कि वर्क फ्रॉम होम कीजिए, स्कूल कॉलेज सब बंद है। क्या आपको नहीं लगता कि गुड़गांव की जो छवि है उस पर ठोस पहुंचा सकती है इसके वजह से?
नहीं, बिल्कुल खराब नहीं होने देंगे। कल जैसे ही वहां पर ये हुआ, मैंने उसी वक्त सीपी गुड़गांव से बात करी और उसने फोर्स भेज के उनको ठीक भी कर दिया और लोगों को बुलाकर उनसे बात भी कर ली। हम पूरी तरह से, हमारी पुलिस लगी हुई है, चप्पे चप्पे पर हरियाणा पुलिस खड़ी है और किसी को भी अब हम किसी प्रकार से, मैं लोगों से अपील भी करना चाहता हूं कि देखिए, पुलिस कार्रवाई कर रही है। आप प्रदेश की शांति व्यवस्था बनाए रखने के लिए आप हमारा सहयोग करिए। किसी प्रकार की उत्तेजनात्मक पोस्ट किसी सोशल मीडिया पे मत डालिए, अगर आती भी है तो फॉरवर्ड मत करिए।
साहब, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। सो दैट वाज द होम मिनिस्टर ऑफ हरियाणा इन द हॉट सीट, taking on the allegations and the criticism really that the police did a shoddy job of first controlling what happened in Nuh and then subsequently allowing the violence to flare up in other parts of Haryana. But the opposition is having none of this. Joining me now is the former Chief Minister of the state and the current Leader of the Opposition in the Haryana Assembly, Bhupinder Singh Hooda. Bhupinder Singh Hooda, thank you very much, sir, for speaking with us. The government has said, and I don't know if you got a chance to hear what the Home Minister said just moments ago, he says that this is a well-planned conspiracy and that the perpetrators will be brought to justice. I want to know your first reaction to what the Haryana government is saying.
This is what I said yesterday also. If it is a well-planned conspiracy, then why government was sleeping? Why didn't it take preventive steps? They're just putting 4 home guard there. Actually, whenever procession like that goes, it is duty of the government to provide security.
Okay.
And see that there is no law and situation खराब होती है, नहीं होनी चाहिए.
But Mr. Hooda,
government is failed government, non-performing government.
But
government has to perform.
But Mr. Hooda, ये बताइए कि if there is a mob of 600, 700 people with weapons, with lathis, stones, pistols, who are attacking this yatra, and 100 people have been arrested since Monday, how do you say that the government has not been proactive enough? How do you say that the government has failed? Because they are saying that over 40 FIRs have been registered, over 100 people have been detained, have been arrested.
It is all peaceful area. There's feeling of all brotherhood over there. This first time happening because of this laxity of the government. Government should have anticipated this thing. It should have prevented. It could have been avoided. It is not that.
But Mr. Hooda, you don't see this as a concerted attack on Hindu processions. The procession that got attacked by the Bajrang Dal, it had police permission. It has been going on there for the last 3 years, is what I'm given to understand. This is the 4th year. Yes, there were some provocative slogans that were raised, but the response to provocative slogans can't be stone pelting from rooftops, using guns, using heavy-duty weapons, ramming a bus into a cyber police station. Those are the act of criminals. How do you respond to that?
That is later on. Police, that has to be, everything has to be provided, security has to be provided. You see, during my time, there were so many yatras going on, even political processions, they go, that it is the duty of the state government to provide security.
No, but normalcy is slowly being restored, not just in Haryana, but I believe tensions are persisting in other states as well, one of which happens to be Rajasthan, which is run by the Congress. The violence has spilled over into Rajasthan. What do you have to say about that? Because this can't be seen purely from a political prism, a BJP or a Congress prism, because even in Rajasthan, there is the spillover of this violence.
Whether it is Rajasthan, whether it is Haryana or anywhere, the brotherhood should be maintained. See, this is not good for the country, and especially Haryana. You see, many MNC, they are saying they have declared holiday. It is going to harm state as a whole. So, prime duty of the government, state government, is to restore law and order and brotherhoodness.
Okay, Bhupinder Singh Hooda, former Chief Minister of Haryana and current Leader of the Opposition in the Assembly there. Thank you very much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Let me now open this up to our panelists. Madhu Gaudiyaski is National Spokesperson of the Congress Party. Sriraj Nair is Spokesperson of the VHP. Vikram Singh is former DGP of Uttar Pradesh. Vikram Singh, let me start with you first, because it seems very clear two things. One, there was a mob of 500-600 criminals, antisocial elements who had weapons from stones to rods to swords, guns, etc., who were allowed to gather there in Nuh. Second, if the police knew about this, that these people were gathering there and the situation could spiral out of control, then why did they not have enough bandobast? Enough eyewitnesses who our reporters have spoken to from both sides, Hindu side and Muslim side, have said that the bandobast of the police was very little, very thin. It was much less compared to last year and the year before that.
Zaka, your initial discussion exposed all the chinks in the police arrangements. The police arrangements actually displayed systemic failure, and the first, no preventive arrest made, no preventive action taken, and SO Nuh is on record to have said that he did not have any intelligence. Every police station in the country has 5 records that go to gather and collect all criminal and such kind of intelligence. Sampradayik सूचना Register, Sampradayik Gunda Register, Aparad Register, and the like. Thana Adhyaksh Gopni Diary. It is not for anybody else to feed him intelligence. He's supposed to generate intelligence. Then the preemptive and the preventive action that was supposed to be seen, preventive arrest, recovery of the firearms as you mentioned, recovery of the swords, recoveries of the knives, and action under 107, 116 of the CRPC to take preventive action. And 151 CRPC, not a single arrest. Zaka, we were inviting trouble with such laxity in such sensitive matters is just not condonable. And to say that we have done everything, that does not inspire any confidence at all. Now, you said that so many FIRs have been lost, 41, 100 arrests. How many national security acts have been slapped on the accused? How many rewards have been declared? Their posters should be pasted all over Haryana and the NCR. You see,
I'm one who always believes in the due process of law, but a lot of people on Twitter, Vikram Singh ji, and I'll get a quick response from you on this and I'll go to the other guests. A lot of people on Twitter, example, are saying that if this happened in Uttar Pradesh, ab tak to bulldozer chala hua jata wahan pe.
चलना ही चाहिए था, क्यों न चले? इनकी नाजायज संपत्ति अगर जमीन दोस्त की जा रही है, that is a lesson. This is what need, and this is within the ambit of law. Make no mistake about it. Within the ambit of law, illegal constructions of the gangsters need to be demolished. Illegal construction of gangsters.
Sriraj Nair, what was the initial provocation? Was that a man named Monu Manesar, who is a murder accused in a double murder, put out a social media video before this Nuh procession and said, "Main aa raha hu wahan pe, main aa raha hu Nuh Mehwat mein." That seemed to have incensed people from the other side, from the other community, and they then responded with this whole stone pelting and attacking the procession that was undertaken by the Bajrang Dal. Now, the question that many people are asking is, Monu Manesar has been missing for the last 6 months. Couldn't the Haryana police have found him? Could he not have been booked for the murder, the lynching of these two cattle traders, these two young boys? He can freely put videos on social media and say, "I'm coming to Mehwat," but police cannot find him.
Well, Zaka, first of all, let me clear it out that the VHP Shobha Yatra had all the required permissions from all the authorities concerned. Now, this was a one-sided attack. Now, Monu Manesar here is being made simply a scapegoat. Now, there is no charge sheet filed against Monu Manesar in Haryana. There is definitely a case in the state of Rajasthan. Now, what is stopping Rajasthan government? Because we all know we have a very senior police officer, Shri Vikram Singh ji, sitting here. Now, the Rajasthan state should have contacted the Home Ministry of Haryana and if he is supposed to be arrested, they should have gone ahead. What had stopped them? First of all, Monu Manesar he is just an accused. Please understand, the Congress government for years together has a habit of trapping Hindus and unnecessarily framing them, and it started with Shankaracharya ji. So this is not a new phenomenon. Nothing has been proved. We cannot call him a murderer. He is accused only in the state of Rajasthan, and Rajasthan police is free to take action.
Sir, but he is accused of double murder. He is not accused of petty theft. He is accused of double murder.
See, in Haryana there is no case against him. He is not named in the charge sheet. But okay, fine. Now Monu Manesar is claiming that he is going to attend the yatra. What does it mean? These jihadis attack the young boys and girls, elderly men and women. Is it right? Monu Manesar is a scapegoat. This is an international pattern. World over, stone pelting has been going on. Even in India, if you see, recently in Delhi there was a Muharram Yatra and Hindus were attacked. In Kerala, some Muslim League, Youth League gathered for agitating against what happened in Manipur, and what were the slogans raised? That they want to kill Hindus and they want to latka in the temple premises. So this is what is happening.
Okay, so let me ask Madhu Gaudiyaski.
The main problem is the Islamic jihadi elements which needs to be cut.
Yeah, once again, Mr. Yaski, the point is that the initial violence, Monu Manesar, yes, put out a video, but he didn't turn up in Nuh. The violence started from the Muslim side. There were stones that were pelted from rooftops, hundreds of them. There were weapons that were brandished. 2 home guards died in that attack. In fact, the postmortem report of one of the home guards and one of the other victims who died there says that they died because their heads were bludgeoned because of blunt force trauma. Now, please tell me, why should the state not act heavily against these guys? And please tell me why retaliatory violence will not happen when you're seeing this kind of organized mob of 500-600 people attacking a procession which up until that point of time at least was going about peacefully. Mr. Yaski.
Jaka, as you have seen, this is a Qatar government. Yes, I can hear you. The Qatar government is Khatarnak politics. This is a BJP's trademark politics. Whenever there's elections happening, this communal rights comes up. I come from a city of Hyderabad, Jaka. There is a procession in the old city through the Ganesh Chaturthi or this Bonalu festival. The police, as Mr. Vikram Singh has narrated, sensitive areas, more force will be deployed. There's a peace committees. Before such yatras, there will be held meetings held by peace
sensitive area. Is it not a part of India? First of all, this word
so this is
sir, one second. Hold on, sir, one second. Let him finish. Then I'll come back.
Jakazi, give me 1 minute.
Sure,
give me 1 minute.
Sure.
It is not just the Congress is saying, it is their own deputy chief minister is saying, the local MP is saying this is a failure of the administration here. Home minister doesn't speak. The Home Minister in your channel, I just saw what he's saying. He's only listing about the steps he has taken, but he has not listed, he's not mentioned about the intelligence failure in spite of having an information why this enough force was not deployed, why there was no peace committees, why this police was called round up those anti-social elements which we're talking about. So wherever such procession is taken, police takes up. Even if I'm a licensed revolver holder, if the procession is going or some sensitive festivals are there, they takes away the guns from the people.
So but Mr. Yaski, can I ask one simple question?
The BJP talks about violence in different states.
I asked about how such large-scale weapons were allowed to be, brought together in one place by 500-600 anti-social elements. Leave that aside. Even if I were to, concede, okay, this was a communal sort of event, this was a communal riot or a communal attack that happened, what business do people have trying to ram a bus into a cyber crime police station? You do know that Nuh, in the last few years, has emerged as some kind of a new Jamtara. It has become a second capital for all cyber crime. A bunch of goons drive a bus into a police station, set a cyber police station on fire. The police have to respond with almost 100 rounds of fire in response to that. Now, you please tell me, where is this provocation and counter-provocation happening? This is straight up criminal activity, this is.
Chaka, this is, then you tell me that during 10 years of Congress rule, such a peaceful state, this is a total failure of Qatar government. They've seen the anti-incumbency seeping in, elections are neighboring state, and they raked up this one. Yourself listing, this is become a new Jamtara. What the Qatar government is doing about it? What's the Home Minister doing about it? What about National Security Force are doing about it? When they talk about old city of Hyderabad to elsewhere, where these anti-social elements to other jihadi groups they talk about, when then right next to your capital city, the Home Minister of India keeps silence. The Qatar, because it's a BJP government, wherever the BJP ruling states this violence takes up, the central Prime Minister nor Home Minister doesn't say utter one word, but they talk about violence in West Bengal to Rajasthan to different states.
Okay, Mr. Sriraj Nair, what Mr. Yaski said earlier,
people are suffered.
The Deputy Chief Minister, Mr. Chautala,
and why the BJP government
one second,
center,
Mr. Yaski.
Neither Prime Minister nor Home Minister doesn't speak one word.
I heard you. Mr. Nair, Deputy Chief Minister of Haryana, who is an ally of the BJP, has said that the organizers are to blame because they did not fully tell the police the extent of this yatra. The local MP, who is a BJP MP, Rao Inderjeet Singh, today met the Prime Minister as well.
Yep.
He is also saying that the police failed. Now, this is not the Congress party or the opposition or the India Alliance that is saying this. Your own people are saying this, Mr. Nair.
Well, Zaka, first, we also somewhere agree that, there was an intelligence failure. adequate police force was not deployed. And when some sting operations have also shown that this was a pre-hatched conspiracy. So definitely there is an element of failure as far as intelligence is concerned. But that does not mean that for every time when a yatra is taking place, these jihadi elements they attack, and people like the gentleman who was talking before me justified. First of all, we have to go beyond politics and understand the world is suffering from the Islamic.
Mr. Yasky, once again. Let Mr. Nair finish one at a time. Otherwise, we'll all be speaking at the same time. Let Sriraj Nair finish. Please,
about the Islamic jihadi terror.
Is it not failure?
Sriraj Nair first, then Mr.
We have to have the
Yasky.
guts. We have to rise beyond appeasement politics. Let us not make it, give it a political color. Everybody should have the guts. A peaceful yatra consisting of elderly men, small children and women moving peacefully were attacked. Nearly 2,500 men has to seek refuge in a temple. Buses were torched. Policemen have been killed. Now, rather than blaming the Islamic jihadi terror, we are beating around the bush. That is absolutely wrong. We are encouraging these people, so-called secular parties, are directly or indirectly encouraging terror network.
Okay,
that is
Mr. Yasky has a question. Yeah. Okay,
now,
Mr.
Once again. 9/11 also,
once
the
again,
twin towers
Mr. Nair.
were destroyed.
Okay,
intelligence failure happened in America.
Yeah.
France was burning for 25 days.
Mr.
Jihadi.
Okay, I get your point.
Terror is the biggest problem.
I get your point. Mr. Yasky has a question for you. Mr. Yasky has a question for you. Yeah. Madhu Gaud Yasky, go ahead. What is your question?
My simple question to Mr. Nair, I appreciate he accepting the failure, some kind of failure is saying the BJP in the state and center in power for past 10 years. If the jihadi elements or antisocial elements are cropping up, what is the government is doing? Is it not responsibility of the state and center, home minister and prime minister? Gurugram is a global city. The MNCs are affected. Jaka, during Telangana agitation, we ensured that no MNCs have been affected. We ensured those people working in the night shifts, they should go to the work. So is it not responsibility of the center and state? My straight question to Mr. Nair, instead of raking up in a communal emotions raking up, is it not, who is responsible? Is it an opposition or the media? Is it responsible of the government who are in power?
Okay, let
Home
Mr.
Minister
Nair
says,
respond.
and is accepting failure.
Yeah, let Mr. Nair respond.
Why the Central Home Minister and Prime Minister doesn't speak one word about it?
Mr. Nair, you know, the problem is, once again, Mr. Nair, the point is, you know, the opposition, and you can hammer them as long as you want, but the opposition is going to say that look at what is happening in Manipur, look at what is happening in Haryana. BJP double engine sarkar is failing in all of these places. Please respond to that.
Yeah, see, it's not failing. It is it's a large scale conspiracy. Because the elections are nearing, the nation is prospering, we are see our economy, our manufacturing, everything is doing well. So now politically it is very difficult for the so-called secular party to defeat BJP. So this kind of handwork is happening. Now coming to the intelligence failure. Now world over, Islamic jihadi terrorists has some way challenged the intelligence network of the entire world. Why did 9/11 happen? They dashed and finished the Twin Towers, World Trade Center. France was burning for 25 days just recently. World over, Islamic terrorism is giving sleepless nights to intelligence networks. There is no doubt about it. But here also, rather than blame game or blaming the intelligence of the state government, definitely there was. We also say that there is some failure as far as intelligence is concerned. But we have to blame the Islamic jihadi network.
So
that
punish,
has to blame. Why are
government
reluctant to accept that fact? That is the matter.
The irresponsible Home Minister, Chief Minister should resign.
Okay.
Irresponsible Home Minister,
then
Chief Minister
did
should
Manmohan resign? When Mumbai attacks happened? Did Vilasarao Deshmukh resign when Mumbai attacks happened? What are you talking about?
Mr. Modi came and doing politics when Mumbai riots were taking place. When the attack was happened, the security force was containing the terror.
Please don't make it political.
And Mr. Modi came and held a press meet there.
Jihadi network, Please don't give indirect support.
You claim to be government of difference, right? You claim you take a high moral ground. You are a government of a difference. What are you doing it? Last 10 years you were in power, and you yourself saying there's some kind of failure.
See, this is a global
That's why people elected you, right?
Islamic
And your own party
is
chief
the
minister,
biggest problem
deputy chief
finance
minister
the world
is
is
saying about
facing.
it. Not we
Let
are
us
talking
accept
about
that.
Okay. All right. Let me go back to
The
Vikram Singh,
distinguished
please.
police officer has said it.
Let me go to Vikram Singh. One
What
second.
kind of measures should have taken?
Let's
Mr.
go back
Vikram
to
Singh has listed
the police official on the panel. Vikram Singh, there is an old adage. Whenever a state government, central government, whenever a state wants to put an end to communal violence or rioting or this kind of arson and looting, if the might of the state is imposed there in full will, then there will be no riot. There's no question of having any kind of riots if the might of the state is standing up against you. Here, as is the case with any riot that we have seen in India in the last 75 years, do you believe that the state response initially was lacking? And then, when the retaliatory violence happened, we are showing you pictures of what happened yesterday in Gurugram, in Badshahpur, in Palwal. When the retaliatory violence happened, where businesses were targeted, small shops were targeted, that is something the state could have been prepared for. The might of the state could have been unleashed on the streets, flag marches, peace committee meetings, showing force on the street. That is what the state should do. That is what the state should have done a day after the violence, so as to ensure that it doesn't spread to other parts of the state. But unfortunately, it did.
Zaka, the might of the state did the disappearing trick and was not to be seen initially. What the state and the police did was reaction, whereas they should have been proactive and not reactive. This is the worst possible kind of an administration that one become reactive. Mr. Yakshi used a beautiful word, peace committees. We did not have a single peace committee meeting also. Let me place it on record. And if we did not have any peace committee meeting, did we expect the Devi and the Devta to descend from heaven as the crowds descended on their own? We do expect your public cooperation. And the second part to your hypothesis is that we should give the impression that we belong to everyone and everyone belongs to us, and absolute impartiality in thought, word and deed. Manu Manesar is an accused. Even if he's an accused in Rajasthan, his vitriolic speeches, his vitriolic presence in the social media, he should have been booked and should not have been allowed to surface in Haryana, because let me make no mistake about it, Zaka, wherever Manu Manesar goes, he is poison and he will vitiate the atmosphere. The least that Haryana police can do is to book him under the NSA now to attain for the lapses that may have happened earlier. Even now, identify the top 20 people, invoke NSA by tomorrow, announce a reward of 2 lakhs on all them, paste their posters all over Haryana and the NCR, have dedicated teams to go after them. If we don't do this, we do not give the impression that we have that killer instinct in us.
So Sriraj Nair, respond to that. What Mr. Vikram Singh is saying is absolutely right. Have you slapped stringent NSA provisions on these fellows? Have you seized their properties, or at least moved to seize their properties? Has the full might of the state come down like a ton of bricks on these guys? And also, please answer the question that he asked you about Manu Manesar. At the end of the day, this man is a fugitive for the last 6 months. He can put out video after video on social media, but the Haryana police can't apprehend him.
Sir, what respected Vikram Singh he is saying, we fully agree with that. The law of the land is supreme. But what has stopped? Nobody. We have not here under the guise of Manu Manesar or dropping his name. We are not accepting the fact that this yatra was pre-decided with full permission, which was attacked by the jihadi elements, and that too it was a conspiracy was hatched. If Manu Manesar needs to be arrested under the purview of law, nobody has stopped it. But mere on the base of being accused, that too in the state of Rajasthan, and in the past, we have seen many a time that Hindus have been framed by the Congress, and eventually they were freed. No charges were proved against them. So here also we are absolutely sure that Monu Manesar is absolutely innocent till and let the trial go on. Under the law, if there is any provision for his arrest, we have not stopped it. Nobody has stopped it. But we firmly believe that he is innocent. His name has been framed by the Rajasthan government.
Okay.
We are very clear on that.
Madhu Gaudiaski, I'll give you the final word. What the BJP is saying and what you heard from Sriraj Nair is also that there is a reluctance among the secular parties or there is a much longer rope that you seem to give to Islamist extremism and Islamist fundamentalism and criminal elements who are clearly from the Islamist side this time, who started the violence in Nuh. You're not willing to extend the same long rope to violent elements on the Hindu side. That you seem to be, much more tolerant of Islamist extremism and Islamist terrorism, but not necessarily when it comes to violence from the Hindu side.
Encouraging.
Yeah, Madhu Yaski, last word.
Zaka, this is an utter nonsensical allegations keep on making by the BJP government and BJP party. That's the false propaganda they created and they came to power. When they're losing power, they resort to any sort of violence or to grab the power. This is absolute state-sponsored terror. The government is fully responsible.
This is in a way promoting
to come back to power.
jihadi terrorism. This is the biggest problem.
Second, Zaka.
Let me answer on the appeasement. Please.
Let me answer the appeasement part which you're talking about. Let me answer on this, Zaka. Please allow me on this.
Yes.
As Mr. Vikram Singh has said it, is this country belongs to as much to you, as much to me, as much to any citizen or any person who belong to whichever community, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh. What I'm trying to say here, when the Congress or opposition parties in power, we try to make it an inclusive, that every citizen of this country has an equal right and opportunities to live in this country. When you do that, when you implement a Raj Dharma, let Mr. Nair go and read what Vajpayee has said it when Godra rights are taken place. Is it responsibility of the government at power in the state and center? They should maintain a Raj Dharma. And when they fail, they've come up on false accusations on the opposition parties. When you're maintaining that law and order, when you're making every citizen or every community, caste, cutting across caste, reason, that you should make sure this country belongs to everyone. Then only peace prevail.
All right.
As Mr. Vikram Singh has rightly said it.
I'll leave it at that. I'm completely out of time. The real unfortunate part, and this is, the timing can't be second guessed by anyone, but the fact is that all of this seems to be happening just a month or so before the G20, and that is something that India can ill afford. The image of the country stands sullied as it does now, and it's incumbent on the state, it's incumbent on society to quickly make sure that there are amends, that normal life and normal business is brought back in Haryana as quickly as possible, particularly in Gurugram. The most disconcerting part has been the fact that many companies, despite the district administration saying things to the contrary, many companies have asked their employees to work from home until Monday. That atmosphere of fear needs to be shattered forthwith, and Gurugram and Nuh and Palwal and other parts of Haryana need to come back to a semblance of normalcy as quickly as possible. And the onus for that, a large part of that onus for that, is on the state of Haryana. All right, let's move on to the other big story. Former United States President Donald Trump has been indicted for the third time, the third case in which he has been indicted. This time, it's in connection with the 2020 election insurrection, post-election insurrection that happened on the 6th of January. There was a special investigation that was helmed by Special Counsel Jack Smith. He's come to a certain conclusion that Trump has now been charged on 4 counts, including conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Trump is now scheduled to appear at a federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. He's been already indicted by a Manhattan grand jury back in March for business fraud in connection to hush money payments made to adult entertainer Stormy Daniels. He was also indicted in connection with a classified documents probe that happened back in June. Now, this spells even more trouble for the Republican frontrunner of the 2020 race, but he continues to lead the Republican pack, at least to be the nominee from the Republican Party's side.
Special counsel Jack Smith criminally charging former President Donald Trump for his attempts to overturn the 2020 election and undermine the peaceful transfer of power.
An indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding.
Federal prosecutors write, the defendant spread lies that there had been outcome-determinative fraud in the election and that he had actually won. These claims were false, and the defendant knew that they were false. And this morning, we're getting our first sense of Trump's defense.
Our defense is going to be focusing on the fact that what we have now is an administration that has criminalized the free speech and advocacy of a prior administration during the time that there is a political election going on. That's unprecedented. We've never seen that in the United States, in the history of the United States.
His lawyer telling CNN he can see the trial lasting 9 months to a year. Trump also took to his Truth Social platform to blast this latest indictment, continuing to claim its purpose is to interfere with his 2024 presidential campaign.
Mr. Smith and his team of experienced principal career agents and prosecutors have followed the facts and the law wherever they lead.
Trump's 6 unindicted co-conspirators are not named, but CNN can identify 5 of them based on quotes in the indictment and other context. The indictment focuses on 5 tactics they, along with Trump, allegedly tried to execute in order to overturn the election results, including organizing fake slates of electors in 7 swing states that Trump lost. Second, fueling claims of election fraud to try to pressure state election officials to subvert the election results. Third, trying to use the power of the Justice Department to conduct sham election crime investigations. Fourth, pressuring then Vice President Mike Pence to falsely alter results and delay the certification of the election. And finally,
we're going to walk down to the Capitol,
stoking tensions on January 6th, fueling the Capitol riot.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies.
Investigators also obtained contemporaneous notes from Pence and documented a conversation on January 1st where Trump, quote, berated Pence for opposing a lawsuit filed to try to authorize him to reject the election results. Pence told Trump it was unconstitutional. Trump responded, "You're too honest." The indictment also recounted a conversation between Trump and former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, where Meadows says Georgia election workers were, quote, conducting themselves in an exemplary fashion. One day later, Trump tweeted that the election workers were trying to cover up fraud.
Everybody has their day in court. So it will be determined if he can fight a jury of his peers, which would be difficult, and to really get to the bottom and the truth of things, because no one is above the law.
I think it's an embarrassment for the country. I mean, that's the former president. He was just indicted on election fraud. It's pretty embarrassing, isn't it?
It's wonderful. I'm thrilled because, I don't know. Some people say the indictments are working for him and some against him, but I looked at the paper today, and according to statistics, he's beating Biden by a lot.
It was a long time coming. This should have happened a long time ago.
CNN political reporter Elena Treen is now joining us live from New Jersey. Elena, what does this mean for Trump in the run-up to the 2024 elections and his own bid to come back to power once again?
Right. Well, he is facing a series of legal troubles. This is his 3rd indictment in the past several months, and we are expecting a potential additional indictment in Georgia. And so legally, he has a long road ahead of him, but politically, it is not seeming to impact his standing. If anything, it's having the opposite effect, which is to boost him in the 2024 race. Currently, Donald Trump is the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination in 2024. His polling currently puts him ahead of his other Republican rivals, and his base and his supporters are very much rallying around him and are behind him on this. And so politically, so far has not had an effect. Of course, that could change in months from now. We have not yet seen a potential trial in this case, and that could definitely affect his standing. But also, just to go back to the legal part of this, I think that this specific indictment that was filed on Tuesday night is one of the most damaging in the eyes of Donald Trump and his advisors. I've spoken with many members of Donald Trump's team, and they are very much concerned about this. And Donald Trump himself is personally very worried about what these charges could mean for him. But as of now, their top strategy is to try and delay a potential trial until after the 2024 election. And for now, one of their key lines of defense is to argue that any of these charges really are amounting to election interference and getting in the way of his presidential campaign.
And Trump, of course, is expected to appear in a federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. What are we expecting on that day, and what are his supporters, his base, as you call them, what are they planning to do in the run-up to and on that day?
Right. So Donald Trump is expected to appear in person at the federal court in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. His team has not yet confirmed them. When I spoke to them last, they said that they're still finalizing the details of what his court appearance will look like. But we are told that he is expected to arrive in person. And that is a huge deal. He will be returning to Washington, D.C., the same place where a lot of these charges stem from, which is circling around January 6th and the attack on the U.S. Capitol in 2021. Now, as for his supporters, already we're seeing security in Washington, D.C. be ramped up. They are expecting some of Donald Trump's supporters to come to the courthouse and stand outside, both in protest of the charges, others protesting Donald Trump's behavior, given it is in D.C. and many Democrats live there. And so I think it will be a very chaotic scene on Thursday. But his supporters, as I mentioned, are very much behind Donald Trump. I spoke with many of them at a rally over the weekend where they told me that they don't think that he did anything wrong, and they use the same rhetoric describing these charges that Donald Trump has been using, which is that they think that he is a victim of political persecution and that he is also a victim of an unfair justice system.
And finally, what are the other Republican contenders saying about this? Are they looking at this indictment? I believe this is the third major case in which Trump has been indicted. Are they looking at this as ammunition for a political attack against Trump, or are they still reluctant about targeting Trump?
Well, you're seeing both, to be honest. There are some Republican candidates, including former Congressman Will Hurd of Texas, as well as former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. They are two Republican presidential candidates who are leaning in to the attacks on Donald Trump. They are arguing that the charges that he is facing in these three separate cases disqualify him from being president, and that he should not be running for president in light of his legal troubles. However, the majority of the 2024 Republicans that are running against Donald Trump are not touching these claims. They do not want to talk about his legal issues. They do not want to talk about the indictments that have been brought against him. They are trying to avoid really anything that could alienate some of Donald Trump's voters, many of the people who support him, and they recognize that the likely need of many of Donald Trump's supporters in order to win in their own elections ahead of 2024.
All right, Elena Treen, live for us from New Jersey tonight. Thanks very much for joining us here on Brass Tacks. And Trump, of course, amongst the Republican pack at least, seems to have a healthy lead over his Republican rivals. Whether or not the indictment that happened Tuesday will have an impact on that, whether it will be negative to Trump or whether it will further rally his base, we'll know in the next few days. That's a wrap. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll catch you again tomorrow night, same time. Good night. The man in the hot seat is the Home Minister of Haryana. Anil Vij is now joining us. Vij साहब बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. अभी हम FIR की कॉपी भी हमारे दर्शकों के साथ शेयर कर रहे थे. इसमें तो साफ तौर पे लिखा है कि ये ऑर्गेनाइज कंस्पिरेसी थी। नूह में जो ये हिंसा जो शुरू हुआ, अब लगता है कि हरियाणा के जो बाकी जगह है वहां पे भी ये हिंसा फैल रही है। 6 लोग मर गए हैं। आप कह रहे हैं कि 100 से ऊपर लोगों को आपने गिरफ्तार कर दी, राउंड अप कर दी, 40 से ज्यादा एफआईआर्स भी दर्ज किया। लेकिन ये बताइए, 3 दिन से और अलग अलग जगहों पे हिंसा फैल रही है, क्या ये पुलिस और प्रशासन की तरफ से विफलता नहीं है? हम क्यों ये माने कि आप लोगों ने ठीक किया या आप लोगों ने सही काम किया? ये तो पूरी तरह से आप फेल हो गए।
देखिए, ये प्राइमरी काम नहीं है। प्राइमरी काम है सारे प्रदेश में शांति को बहाल करना, लॉ एंड ऑर्डर को मेंटेन करना, और वो हम कर रहे हैं। हमने 30 कंपनियां मेवात में डाली हैं, नूह में डाली हैं हरियाणा की। 20 कंपनियां जो हमें केंद्र से मिली हमने वो वहां पर डाली हैं। नूह में 8 थाने हैं, हमने 8 जोन्स में उनको बांटा है और हर जोन में एक आईपीएस को हमने ड्यूटी लगाई है। पूरी तरह से जो साक्ष्य मिल रहे हैं सीसीटीवी से या अन्य संसाधनों से, जो मिल रहे हैं, जो जिनकी इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, उनको हम पकड़ रहे हैं। 41 एफआईआर कल रात तक दर्ज हो चुकी थी और 116 लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया जा चुका था। 90 के करीब हमने डिटेन कर रखे हैं। हम जांच कर रहे हैं कि उनकी संलिप्तता इसमें है या नहीं है। अगर संलिप्तता होगी तो उनको भी गिरफ्तार करेंगे। माय प्राइमरी जॉब इज टू मेंटेन पीस। पहला काम मेरा ये है कि वहां पर पीस बहाल की जाए, नहीं लोगों में विश्वास पैदा किया जाए कि पुलिस पूरी तरह से आपके साथ है। आप निर्भीक होकर, निर्भय होकर आप अपनी दिनचर्या करें, आप अपने
नहीं विद साहब, लेकिन ये बताइए, पहली चीज, ये नूह की जो स्थिति थी, इस तरह इतना मतलब बुरी तरह इसको कैसे बिगड़ने दिया आपके पुलिस और प्रशासन ने? दूसरी चीज, हमारे पास ये भी जानकारी है कि, और एफआईआर में भी ये लिखा है कि 500 से 600 लोग एंटी सोशल एलिमेंट्स वहां इकट्ठे हुए। उनके पास पत्थर थे, उनके पास लाठी थे, पिस्तौल, स्वॉर्ड्स, सब चीज थे उनके पास। ये इतनी भारी संख्या में इतने लोगों को आपने वहां कैसे इकट्ठा होने अलाउ किया? क्या हम ये ना माने कि ये पुलिस की तरफ से इंटेलिजेंस फेलियर थी और पुलिस की तरफ से लॉ एंड ऑर्डर के भी फेलियर थी कि इतने भारी संख्या में लोग वहां इकट्ठा हो गए?
नहीं, देखिए, ऐसा है, बिना तथ्यों की जानकारी के मैं नहीं कह सकता। मैं इसकी जांच कराऊंगा कि क्या किसी के पास इनपुट था, अगर था तो उसने किसको बताया, किस लेवल के अधिकारी को बताया, किस लेवल की घटना होने वाली थी, क्या वहां तक बताया या नहीं बताया। तो हम करेंगे ना जी, उसके बाद करेंगे ना जी, इस बात को करेंगे जांच। मैं बख्शता तो किसी को हूं नहीं, आप सब जानते हो। मैं किसी को नहीं बख्शूंगा अगर किसी ने कोताही बरती है, लेकिन अभी किसी नतीजे पर पहुंचना ठीक नहीं है। हाँ, एक बात जरूर लगती है कि किसी ने मास्टरमाइंड किया है, क्योंकि साइमल्टेनियसली कई स्पॉट के ऊपर हिंसा होना ऐसा कभी दंगों में हुआ नहीं करता जब तक कि उसकी प्लानिंग ना की गई हो। ऐसे नहीं हो सकता कि मैंने गुड़गांव से पुलिस भेजी और बॉर्डर पर ही उन्होंने गोलियां चला दी। इसका मतलब किसी को पता था कि ये जलेगा और बाहर से फोर्स नहीं आने देंगे। ये सारी बातों की हम जानकारी करेंगे। अगर किसी ने मास्टरमाइंड भी किया है, उसकी भी तथ्यों सहित। लोग बहुत कुछ कह रहे हैं, कई लोगों का नाम ले रहे हैं, लेकिन मैं किसी की नहीं मानता। मैं तो वो बात को मानूंगा जो तथ्यों सहित मेरे सामने आएगी।
नहीं, इसके तो ये बताइए विद साहब, ये जो हिंसा हमने देखी नूह में, उसके बाद उसके प्रतिक्रिया में या उसके रिएक्शन में जो गुड़गांव में फैला गया, जो बादशाहपुर में हमने देखा, पलवल, काफी सारे जगहों में हरियाणा में ये हिंसा फैल गई। गुड़गांव तो आपको पता ही है कि आईटी का सेंटर है। एक तरीके से देखेंगे तो पूरे नॉर्थ इंडिया का सबसे बड़ा आईटी सिटी माना जाता है। तो इस तरीके के जो वायलेंस हो रहा है, इस तरीके की जो हिंसा हो रही है, वहां पे कंपनियों को बोला जा रहा है कि वर्क फ्रॉम होम कीजिए, स्कूल कॉलेज सब बंद है। क्या आपको नहीं लगता कि गुड़गांव की जो छवि है, उस पर ठोस पहुंचा सकती है इसके वजह से?
नहीं, बिल्कुल खराब नहीं होने देंगे। कल जैसे ही वहां पर ये हुआ, मैंने उसी वक्त सीपी गुड़गांव से बात करी और उसने फोर्स भेज के उनको ठीक भी कर दिया और लोगों को बुलाकर उनसे बात भी कर ली। हम पूरी तरह से, हमारी पुलिस लगी हुई है, चप्पे चप्पे पर हरियाणा पुलिस खड़ी है और किसी को भी अब हम किसी प्रकार से, मैं लोगों से अपील भी करना चाहता हूं कि देखिए पुलिस कार्रवाई कर रही है, आप प्रदेश की शांति व्यवस्था बनाए रखने के लिए आप हमारा सहयोग करिए। किसी प्रकार की उत्तेजनात्मक पोस्ट किसी सोशल मीडिया पे मत डालिए, अगर आती भी है तो फॉरवर्ड मत करिए।
साहब बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। सो दैट वाज द होम मिनिस्टर ऑफ हरियाणा इन द हॉट सीट टेकिंग ऑन द
Good evening and welcome to Vantage from the lovely city of Gandhinagar, the capital of Gujarat, the city named after Mahatma Gandhi. Why are we here tonight? Because right behind me, a very important conversation is taking place. A G20 ministerial event on women's leadership and empowerment. India, as the G20 president, is taking the lead on bringing this issue to the front and center of the G20 agenda. We'll share notes on the interventions and policy prescriptions discussed here. In the show tonight, we will begin with the US. Its economy has been downgraded by a global rating agency and Washington is throwing a fit about it. In Poland, they're talking about moving soldiers to the border amid reports of an airspace incursion by Belarus. In Pakistan, they're suddenly talking about peace with India. In China, the biggest rainfall in 140 years has led to floods and chaos. Australia wants the right to work from home and they're moving court for it. And Canada has a new policy to stop people from smoking. We'll tell you all about it. The headlines first. Recep Tayyip Erdogan calls Vladimir Putin. The Turkish president has asked his Russian counterpart to not escalate tensions. The phone call comes as the grain deal remains stuck in limbo. Moscow exited the deal last month, blocking the supply of grain from Ukraine to the world. Pakistan Prime Minister says, quote-unquote, Afghan citizens